think I had
She had hand.
okay.
Yes, she.
My question is for Reverend Don. You said that at the Council of Nicaea, I think, it was decided that Jesus was 100% God as well as 100% man, if I'm correct. So my question is, based on what decision, based on what facts was it decided that Jesus was 100% God? And if during that time there were people who believed that they believed in Jesus, but did not believe that he was God? Because you said the Council of Nicaea, when the church made the decision, it was, I forget the date, 130 AD or something. So there was a long gap between, that Jesus lived and then. So I was just wondering, during that gap, if there were people who believed in Jesus, not necessarily believing that he was divine, and at the council, why was it decided 100% that he was God, based on what? And also, if it was based on his miracles, that it was decided that he was 100% God, then why not Prophet Moses? Why was he not considered God, or Adam, or the prophets before Prophet Jesus?
Yeah, it took many years for the whole doctrine to emerge. And when you think about it, the creed was really written because there were competing views of who Jesus was and who God was. And the church found that it needed to clarify its understanding. And this is really partly why it took so long, to 325 before they finally began to spell out what does it mean to be a Christian, and what is it we accept and what is it we don't accept. So there were other perspectives that clearly were present. Gnosticism, for example. Actually, Bill, you probably remember a whole bunch of these other movements that were present back there. So there was an attempt to finally just clarify. What the reason the emphasis upon God, Jesus as God, really comes with salvation and Easter and the resurrection. Jesus, yes, he's a good man. If it was just a good man, we would see him simply as a prophet and as a role model, indeed. But that his true action really comes with the act of the resurrection. It's very interesting in the Apostles' Creed, we talk about his birth and we jump immediately to the resurrection. He was born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, crucified, and buried, and rose. Nothing on his life in the basic confession of our church. Because why is he important? He is the Savior who brings new life. And that's what the church wanted to stress then in its understanding of who he was. That he wasn't just a human being, but that in that very action, he really represented God himself in that action. I don't know if that helps, but the miracles are important. His preaching is important. His lifestyle is important. His message of love is important. But ultimately, it's the crucifixion and resurrection that prompted the church to finally make that statement about their understanding of who he was. And it took time for that to be hammered out.
I recognize that one. I may ask you to please pose whatever you want to say as questions with specific answers, because I know you will have comments and so on. You may, well, let's have the panels get back to your questions in a more direct way.
Oh, hi. I was just wondering for Pastor Don. So I understand that you're from the Lutheran Church, right?
Right.
All right. So is it all right if someone that's Lutheran goes on to a Catholic church, or someone who's Catholic goes on to a Lutheran church? I mean, is there like a difference?
We'd hate to lose members, I can tell you that. No, there really is tremendous mobility. And it's very interesting that somebody was asking me earlier about really kind of the relationship with the Lutherans and the Catholic Church. It's very interesting that recently, here with the Lutherans have split off from the Roman Catholic Church, and yet back in the 1990s, dialogues were held. They talked about the whole issue of justification, and they came to the conclusion that what we really were saying was exactly the same thing, except we were using different images to say it. You know, suddenly that realization that we are much closer together. You know, if we could have agreed on that 500 years ago, there would not have been a Protestant Reformation. So moving back and forth, there is a good deal of that. We have great respect for other religions, for other groupings. The primary, what I shared with you is kind of the overview of what it means to be a Christian. Within that, there are tremendous pietistic differences, differences in style, liturgical differences, but the core of our faith is often very, very similar. So I could be very comfortable, for example, worshiping in the Catholic Church. Now the piety might be a little different. Their focus on saints might be something that I feel a little uncomfortable with. But I understand that they're not really praying to the saints. They're praying to Christ, but they're praying through the saint. I could live with that. So there's a great deal of movement back and forth, and I think growing mutual respect for one another. And this has really been the essence of the ecumenical movement, is trying to understand one another. And we have taken great strides. At this point, for example, I could serve in an Episcopal church, a Reformed church, a Presbyterian church, as a pastor. But we have reached that level of cooperation. In a pastoral vacancy, one of their pastors could indeed come and serve in Prince of Peace. And that's the kind of relationship that's beginning to emerge.
I have a question for the pastor. What is the word begotten? The word begotten.
Begotten. Comes from, made by, birthed by. I mean, that would be my sense of begotten from the Father. Comes from, sent from, at one with, of the same being as.
What's the dictionary definition for it?
I'd have to look that one up. I would think it has to do with birthing, begotten.
So it's generate by procreation.
Yeah.
So what
Okay.
does that mean? And I would generate.
Well, in terms of using the relational language, I mean, it was Jesus who uses the language, Father and I are one, so that the kind of imagery he's using is relational. But it's one of those, you don't want to press the image too far. It's, what other way could we describe that kind of close relationship? And so that was an image that's used. But whenever you have an image, you have to be careful not to press it too far. But yeah, the sense that Jesus is begotten comes from, is at one with, of the same substance as would be the. But just maybe a little less emphasis on the physical aspect, that oneness with God.
I want to make the comment on that, that I know what you are trying to say is begotten is animal act. How can you attribute animal act to being God? Because we believe in virgin birth of Jesus, the way